Well, we want to welcome everybody to the inaugural Atlanta Digital World Summit. Let's give the founder, Ms. Sarah Smith, and all the folks that helped make this happen a round of applause before we get to our next panel. Hope you're enjoying this. My name is Dolores Kroll, and my day job is as the Government Affairs Director for CEO Michael Thurman in DeKalb County, Georgia. Let's hear it for DeKalb County. Yeah! All right, so all of you, the check is in the mail. You got it. And I have the pleasure of working with my very good friend, Leslie LaBelle, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hey, my name is Leslie LaBelle. I am Director of Operations for Hilton Howell, who is, we're going to have him introduced in just a few minutes. I'm also a native Atlantan and go way back with one of the other folks we're going to be interviewing today, and I'm just excited to be here.
Thanks, Leslie. Well, it's funny because I started out working within the CEO's office after working about, I won't tell you how many years, but it's over a couple of decades with AT&T and Bell South. And actually, one of the buildings that I worked in was this very building over 20 years ago when it was Bell South. Doesn't look anything like it did back then. However, they were kind of a step ahead if you think about the fact that they're conveniently located to public transportation, which is where everybody wants to be. And the idea behind even building this building here was the digital footprint that it was producing, just because of all of the technology that was in this building connected to a MARTA station. So it's kind of like a coming home for me, even though, like I said, it looks a lot different. So we've got two really exciting folks for you to meet. I have the pleasure of introducing Leslie's boss, Mr. Hilton Howell. Let's give him applause. And he is the CEO and president?
And chairman.
And chairman. You see, 3 hats, one guy. Of Gray Television, and what we also want you to know is that he's got an exciting project called Assembly. Everybody's probably heard and seen that. And he's going to really give us and share with us, you know, his vision. I mean, I see him as a visionary. I mean, I know you do because he's your boss, but nonetheless, I do see him as you have to have vision to create what's out there. And I would encourage any of you, when you have an opportunity, to go out and visit the Assembly.
But not right now while it's under construction, please. No, definitely come check it out. And he is visionary, and so is Keith. So I have the opportunity to introduce Keith, who is actually a childhood friend of mine. We go way, way, way back. And I grew up here, too, actually, in Atlanta. And I used to hang out around here because my grandmother lived in Morningside for 60 years. And this area does look very different. And I think the vision of people like Hilton and Keith is what keeps our city continuing to evolve and be competitive. Keith came back to Atlanta after, I think, 2 decades in New York City, wanted to return to his roots here in Atlanta, picked up a couple of local newspapers and started Rough Draft Atlanta with the hyper-local focus on communities around Atlanta. And so he's deeply invested in Atlanta and in what we're doing here today. So I'm very excited to introduce both of these wonderful gentlemen.
All right, without further ado, come on up, guys.
I didn't know they were going to be introducing Keith and I this morning, but I want to thank both of you. They keep us in line and, as they say, keep the trains running. So, which is candidly a little tough for me this morning. It was slept through my alarm clock this morning, but I made it through and I'm here.
I wanted to ask you for some students that are here attending, and I was going to ask you for life hacks and how you got to where you were. And one of the things I read was that you used to wake up at 4 in the morning, and then you told me you slept through your alarm. So we'll come back. We'll come back.
I think that's a life hack right there. All right. You know, and people tell you get up at this time and that time, and everybody thinks, oh, it's because you're productive. You know, you're up at 5 o'clock. You're at the gym by 5:15. Everything's great, and you're just killing every day. That's not my experience in life. I get up at 4 a.m. because I often have to go to bed at 3 a.m. or I'm going to go to the bathroom at 3 a.m. and I stay up after that. So not really, but it's one of those things that I do enjoy the early mornings. And since we came into the Atlanta market approaching 2 years ago with Atlanta News First now, and with Peachtree TV, then Telemundo Atlanta, and then most recently the acquisition of the CW. I'm an avid watcher, and I will drop text to the TV station as some of our folks in the back may know, going, boy, I really like this, or I don't really criticize. But one thing I'm proud of, because I'm a very patriotic American in what I view as in the best sense of the word, because I think that we are blessed by being here in this country, by being a citizen in this country, because there is no country on the world, and I've traveled it all, that gives you the opportunities to do what we can do in this country. And so way back when I was a little boy, the TV went off at midnight. But at that midnight hour, which I doubt anyone in this crowd remembers, there was this black and white little lonely American flag flashing, and then they had some crazy not digital, but just stuff playing the national anthem. It's like, it's time for us to bring that back. And so we did, and launched it in all of our markets. And it airs not at midnight, but when we change from a Monday performance of programming to the next day, Tuesday. So in our particular instance, it airs about 4:30 in the morning, because that's when one day's programming ceases and a new day's programming begins. And so I kind of like to watch the national anthem. It's a good way to begin the day. So I do get up early, but I slept through my alarm today. That happens, all right? Forgive yourself.
So you are the CEO of Gray TV, which is one of the largest TV operators in the country. Give us an elevator story of how you got to be atop this TV company that in Atlanta until recently, as you mentioned, was kind of unknown as a large operator.
Well, it's funny. I know Rodney Hohen was supposed to be here, and at one point when
Sorry.
Yeah, you're an upgrade. I hate to tell you. No, I love Rodney.
Off the record.
The first time Rodney ever interviewed me, he goes, "Well, Hilton, where the heck have you been?" I said, "Right here, doing this same thing for 30 years." It's one of those typical stories of, 30 years to be an overnight success. And that's what I sort of felt like, because while we had been growing in so many markets, we weren't in our hometown of Atlanta. And then all of a sudden, we came in with a bang. And most of the people in the market didn't see it coming. And I think there's a lot of people that think I'm an evil whatever, we'll go with genius, all right? Evil genius. Because all of a sudden, we popped in, we did all these things, we made a lot of waves. My most brilliant move, and it was a complete accident. WSB doesn't believe this, but it's true. She just bumped into someone that worked in our home office, and Monica Kaufman wanted to come to work. And I'm like, really? Yeah, like tomorrow? Like, no, today? Yes. And so, so people thought we had it all planned out. The truth is, if you work hard enough, you're lucky enough, and you keep your nose to the grindstone, things break your way sometimes, all right? And if you treat people right consistently throughout that period of time, you get a reputation. And one of the hallmarks of our company that I'm exceptionally proud of is that, and you can go on our YouTube and listen to our people, because they tell you this directly, and you can go and walk into A&F at this point, because, at first they didn't trust us, but it's our people. When you're in the media business, it's not those cameras, all right? You need to have good cameras now, but it's the people. It's the people that make all the difference. It's what puts the news on the air. And then I know you asked me how I got here.
You want to lie on the sofa? We could talk about
No.
overnight success.
This is not therapy, I hate to tell you. History maybe, but not therapy. But I was kind of born in the TV business. My grandfather put our first station in my hometown of Waco, Texas, on the air with partners, one of whom was Lyndon Johnson, believe it or not, in the early 50s. But that was not the origin of Gray. I tried to talk the board of that group of companies. There were like one company, 2 TV stations in Louisiana, Oklahoma, and 3 in Texas, into doing what I have subsequently done with Gray Television, and that is essentially consolidate the broadcast business. The ownership was divided between the Johnson family interest, who, when he came in, he was a senator for Texas, but then he became, a president of the United States, and that creates a whole level of complications. And so the company really wasn't able to do what we did. And so that was in 89, 88, 89, 90, somewhere in there. In 91, I joined my father-in-law, J. Mac Robinson, and we were looking around for new investment opportunities. And Gray Communication Systems came on the market in Albany, Georgia. And I had just been through all of this in the broadcast business, and I'm like, Mac, broadcast is a really good business. But then as now, and this is something I do need to tell you guys, everybody thought, my whole life TV's been going dead. We were like, dying or dead since I have been alive. And yet, I'm finishing my best year in the company's history, and I'm like going, okay, great. Where are you talking about? But in the early 90s, the great boogeyman was cable, all right? The sexy asset was to buy cable assets. And so when we went down to buy the Gray family out, they had no other bidders. And so we bought them all out there in the pink sheets. In 96, we moved them to the New York Stock Exchange. And so I have been with the company since our very first television station. And we are now in 114 markets. We have something like 500 or 600 TV streams into individual markets, maybe more. We're in every market in the Peach State, which I'm exceptionally personally proud of. And I will tell you one thing, for those of you who are Georgians, we have a very unique footprint because a lot of folks used to buy just big markets, and but we cover every market in whole states, and I look at that as covering people that have a commonality of viewership, all right? And so we've launched Peachtree Sports Network. It goes live October 6th. That will bring sports teams from all over Georgia, to viewers across the state. And then we picked up, when we came to Atlanta, Telemundo Atlanta, and no one had taken it outside of the biggest market in the state. But there's primary Spanish speakers all over the South. And so we worked with Telemundo Corporate, and then we expanded through low power televisions all through Georgia. So now we have Telemundo, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, with local news and regional news broadcast in Spanish live. And it's really been fantastic. So we've gotten there, and then during COVID, got into this assembly business.
Yeah, well, they say, so we'll talk about assembly in just one second, but I think it was Warren Buffett that said, it's not when you sell a business, it's when you buy a business. And so the story about Albany kind of resonates there. I spent, as Leslie mentioned, I grew up in Atlanta. I was born here. I spent much of my childhood on 285 in traffic, sitting in front of the old GM plant, which is now becoming assembly. So tell us, how did that come about, and what's the status of where we are in terms of seeing it come online?
Well, during COVID, we picked up a bunch of businesses that I didn't even know I was buying when we bought Raycom Sports, believe it or not. And that included Atlanta Film Studios in Paulding County, that we owned 51%. It included Swirl Films that did a lot of movies for the Bounce Network originally, then BET, and then the Hallmark Network and all the rest. And we had a third interest that we inherited, and the reason it was kind of an afterthought in terms of the acquisition is that there used to be a joint venture between Raycom and Scripps that owned the Bounce Network, and then they had a blind bid, and Scripps outbid Raycom. This is before my time, or I would have bought it. And Bounce became a wholly owned division of Scripps. And so we had the film studio, and they had the network in Bounce. How many of you guys watch Bounce at all? You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah. All right. It's not CBS or NBC, but it's a pretty good deal. It makes great money, and I think it serves a wonderful audience. And I'm disappointed not to have it, but that transaction happened. And so during COVID, I moved our investment to controlling interest. The founder and the person who owns all the rest is Eric Tomasanis, who appeared yesterday at Atlanta News First, talking about a show that we premiered last night called Go Big or Go Home. And I can't wait to see what the results were last night in terms of their airing. But we went through, and then we made a deal for, and I'm sorry, I'm being a little long-winded, but it's a longer story, with World Chase Tag that now has a permanent place on ESPN. And I got charged. It was a UK company founded by two brothers, and we had to put together in basically a very long weekend the American National Championship for, product stuff. I mean, just you got to have something to put on the air, and it hadn't aired anywhere in the United States. And so I reached out to my team, like, where can we do this? Because everybody that had it, everything was shut down. London was shut down, New York was shut down, California was shut down, Canada was shut down. But thank God for Governor Kemp, because he had eased those restrictions. And so we were, with significant protocols, able to actually film during COVID. And we couldn't find any place, though, because a lot of things that were operated by Live Nation, they closed. So we actually went to the Battery, and we filmed the whole thing there. And so we were at the Roxy, and then the athletes with World Chase Tag were at the Omni, and they ran back and forth, and we made a great deal. But so we started looking for what I said is 20 acres and a mule, and I ended up with the General Motors assembly plant. And so now we have built at Assembly what I truly think is the most state-of-the-art, most unique, and most attractive film, television, and digital producing studios anywhere in the world. And I'm really not touting my book here. What I am, well, I guess I am, but where I got that from is I haven't seen every place in the world, but there's a lot of people that I know that have visited Assembly that who have told me that. And I'm really proud of it, because you got to remember something. We had the advantage of starting from scratch, looking at everyone else, and all of the other studios got started during the silent film business, at the turn of the last century. And so we were able to learn and study and take that and then bring it into a modern capacity. And so one of the things that I think, and I've got to give credit to the General Assembly and to the previous governors, because the tax, incentive credits brought, creative storytellers to Georgia. And now we have hundreds of thousands of people that are working day in, day out in jobs that I think are fabulous. And so we launch right now. NBC Universal, our primary tenant, has occupied it, and we have our grand gala on the 21st.
Yeah. So what are a couple of things that make Assembly different than some of the other studios, or what make you so excited about it?
Well, I think it's enormously efficiently designed. One anecdote I'll say, Tyler Perry came out to take a look at it, and we have a very tightly compacted sort of area. It's like right at 50 acres, but the mill buildings are right next to the studio buildings. And so Tyler looked at me and he goes, Hilton, you're going to save $1 million a year by doing that, because he's got a lot more acreage than we do, but his mill buildings are a long way from his studios. And so just the transportation cost of moving this, what's been done. So I think that's one thing. I think we have taken what is known as the back lot and made it the front lot. So we have 4 facades across the front. They're public facing. And we chose these facades because Lee Thomas with the Georgia Film Council advised us. These are the ones that there's nothing like it architecturally in Atlanta, because we want them to film Atlanta. We want this to be it's a beautiful state. So we built a facade for New Orleans, got nothing like that here. We built a facade for New York, brownstones, Upper East Side, Upper West Side, Brooklyn. We built a facade for Europe. So you don't have to fly across the pond, you can film it right there. And then the latter one is what we just call Tribeca, but it's an industrial look, exposed fire cases, different types of bricks. And it's all real, mahogany doors, opening windows. So if we go from 4K to 10K, we're ready for you.
Awesome. So we have time for some questions. If there are folks that want to raise their hand, I think there may be a microphone going around.
Yes, ma'am.
How does one get a job to work at great television studios?
Well, candidly, most of the jobs will be under the payroll of NBC Universal, all right, because they're taking it, and the strikes have slowed that process down. There is actually a website, I can't quote it to you right now, but you can pretty much jobs at Assembly, NBCU, and probably find it in a simple search. But they will be hiring them. I mean, most of our jobs are kind of already filled, and it depends, because Gray's keeping 5 major studios, and we'll have to kind of wait and see. This is a new business for us. We own Third Rail, which is next door, and then Atlanta Film Studios in Paulding, and so not completely new, but And then so you have the permanent jobs that are part of the actual infrastructure of the studio. And then you have the jobs, which I'm really proud of, are in excess of the 4,000 numbers that we publicly talk about, that are jobs that are tied to the individual productions that we'll be filming there. Those are individual things. Yes, ma'am.
What's your favorite part of your career?
Today? No, I mean, I will tell you, like, I love what I do, and I love people, and I love the media business. We're also in the insurance, but I love that too. And I love to work, and I love to be around people and talk. And because I think that's the only real way, once you get finished with your schooling, to learn. And so you need to always have an open mind, maintain certain strong values that make you a special person, but be open to the ideas of others, learn from those ideas, and then hopefully make action. Because there's a lot of great ideas out there, but the difference between an idea and reality is execution. So that's key.
We have one more question, and then I think we have to wrap up.
Yes, I think you mentioned that your father-in-law was J. Mac Robinson,
Sure was.
College of Business, Georgia State, J. Mac Robinson.
That's him.
Okay, well, yeah, you said it real quick, so I just
Is my son in the audience? He's just finishing up his MBA at the J. Mac Robinson School of Business. So, are you there? You're a graduate? So, yeah, that was my follow-on. That is the business school. And he was a grand philanthropist and gave away most of his fortune to think, most of it anonymously. But Georgia State wanted to use his name, and so I'm kind of glad that he did. But we're very proud of it, and I'm very proud that my son is soon to be, if not already, I think actually his class, he just hadn't gotten the slip, so has his MBA from Georgia State and the J. Mac Robinson School of Business. One more, and I'm going to get out of y'all's way. Yes?
So a lot of people are talking about the convergence of entertainment, and Gray has been a little bit ahead of this. How do you see Gray bringing different types of entertainment together, both within Gray and at Assembly?
Well, we have a unique asset that has never existed before in the broadcast business, and that is that we're in 113 markets. We literally have a national television distribution force, and 10 years ago, that had never happened, all right? People had tried it, but it never came to pass. I think that our footprint is unique. I mentioned my idea of commonality of viewers, and that's really what we're doing with sort of Peachtree Sports Network. There's a lot of folks here that want to root for various local teams for whatever reasons. I mean, it's important. And you need to know I'm going after the Braves and the Hawks, and so don't think, because it's time for them to return to free TV. So I think that the opportunities are literally limitless. I listened to some of this, what I think of as just brain-dead coverage about the death of linear television, and it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And the only reason that I really, truly feel like I have standing to say that is that I'm 61 years old. The last memory I have probably started about 3.5 or 4, and I've been hearing it every year after that, all right, the whole time. And yet we continue to grow and prosper, our audiences grow, but at the end of the day, you've got to give them something worth watching, all right? And that's part of the problem with a lot of what's happened. And so our world, all of our stocks are down, because the big media entertainment companies really just got a fever dream during COVID and went into streaming at a level that maybe it made sense when we were all sitting at home, but it certainly doesn't make any economic sense. And no business, no matter how big you are, can burn through $2 billion a quarter. It just doesn't work, all right? And so consolidation, sharing, and all the rest will happen, and price increases are going to happen. And what you're going to see, in my estimation, is the streaming component. Cord cutting happened to save money because cable was expensive. Well, that's great. So you move to one of the streaming services for $8 a month, which I remember way back in my day when I would go and buy a Disney VHS tape, it cost me about $8, right? You could have the whole library for $8 for 30 days. But by the time they start making money, it's going to be more costly than cable. And they only have just this very small sort of segment. And so it's way too fragmented. And it's been a devastating blow to all of media stocks. Because, if you've got Disney and Paramount Global and, all the rest losing their, Wall Street just can walk away. And that's damaged my stock because we're great. But you're going to see more of what we did with the Suns in Arizona and the Mercury. We were able to get season-wise the Mercury games on air statewide in Arizona. And then this upcoming season, the Suns will come live. And we did a giveaway program that the Suns did to give away digital antennas. They spent $100,000, and I don't know how many antennas that means, but it was gone in 8 hours. So we matched them, did another $100,000. It was gone in 3. And then we got over 100 letters, and this I'm really proud of, and I had no idea, and I'm a little embarrassed I didn't, from people that were Native Americans that were in reservations. And they wrote letters to the station and to our GM. They're saying, geez, for the very first time in my life, I actually get to see our baseball or our basketball team. And I kind of assumed that, like in rural Georgia, there's a lot of dish and direct TV, satellites, and different things that I really assumed that they had gotten it. For reasons that I still don't fully understand, they didn't until we got them on free TV. And in the world of cord cutting, broadcast television is the ultimate cord cutter. I don't want to lose cable distribution, but you can plug in with a freaking clothes hanger on the back of a television and get all of my TV assets in this market in Atlanta, and that's true in every market across the country. So I plan on using that.
Cool. Thank you very much. This was great. Do not
Thank you.
put a clothes hanger in the back of your TV. But thanks for sponsoring the event, and thanks for spending some time together.
Well, congratulations. This was a great day. Thank you.